Welcome to another Tuesday installment of Doing Life with me, Tandy. And today I have Shiranzo with me. Hi, everyone. And on the other side, we have Karabo Maimela. I'm going to ask him to just introduce himself quickly.
Okay, hi everyone. Karabo Maimela here. I'm super excited to, spend the next couple of moments, having a chat with you and sharing a little bit about my journey, a little bit about my story.
Awesome stuff. Shiranzo, do you want to take it away? Okay. Uncle Karabo.
Hello, young lady.
So my mom tells me that you did not go to high school. No, you didn't study. You didn't end up doing the job that you studied. So my question that I'm about to ask you is, if I do end up going to university, should I go to university or not? Because you didn't necessarily do the job that study the
Do the job that he studied.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And if not, what should I do to end up being successful like you?
Phew, that's a great question. So I'll start off by answering it. Yes, I do think you should go to, university. Do I think university is for everybody? I will say no, I don't. There's some guys who are able to, that are just great with their hands and can do incredible things with their hands, right? Some people just are that way inclined. They can put things together, they can take them apart. So you think of a lot of your tradesmen like jobs, right? Like it's not, call it a formal sort of like formal university, but you can do like a tradesman type of qualification. These are people that are good working with wood, woodwork, plumbing, those type of jobs are actually in decline. So there's a massive demand for people with those skills. But the challenge is, and the challenge that we have in our country is that we actually don't have a lot of people who are looking at doing work like that, because it's seen as, as a almost looked down on, right? But it's actually such a great way for people to earn a living if you're not academically inclined. So you get people who can do all these great stuff. They're just not inclined to sit and to sit for extended periods of time studying something. In my view is, if you're going to study something, you want to study something that you are not just passionate about but good at. And there's a difference, and there's a good guy that I'd refer you to. His name is Professor Scott Galloway, and he talks a lot about this concept that you do something that you are good at least something that you're better than 80% or 85% of the population at. If you find that and you do that, you will get a passion for it and you will be successful. So you think of people who are in, call it like tax lawyers or tax practitioners. Nobody's passionate about doing tax or other people's corporate tax. No one's passionate about it. But what happens is that people are good at it. And because they're good at it, they actually perform very well in doing that specific role. And when they do that specific role, then they get the accolades, then they get the money, then they get the recognition. All these other things come as a result of you doing something that you are good at. So find that thing, and that's going to be different for different people, right? So for me, I'm good with people. And it took me a long time to actually realize, wait a minute, what's a career that I can do that's going to play to my strengths, right? And there's quite a few of them that are available out there. So how can I now mirror what I'm good at that's economically viable, that I can build a sustainable career over a long period of time? So some people good at numbers, but not good at people. So you want to, if you that way inclined, you want to try avoid something that's going to maybe put you in the almost in the firing range of doing something that you're not really good at, right? I think of, and it's almost a bad generalization, but I think of maybe like accountants, just to generalize, you know, most accountants, listen, give me a spreadsheet, give me numbers. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to clients. I don't want any of that. But give me numbers. I can calculate. I can come up with great formulas. We can do projections. We can do this. We can do that. I love a spreadsheet, right? But they don't like to interact with people. So those are things that you need to look at. So if you want to do something and you want to be successful, number one, do something that you're good at. First and foremost, do something that you're better at than most people. And then I'd say look at things like the sciences. So medicine, anything that's with a BSc, right? That makes sense. So I'm thinking medicine. I'm thinking chemistry. Then there's obviously your chemical engineering. There's engineering that's a big one as well. So if you that way inclined, then look at doing that. There's also what we call technology, tech careers, which is more your software developers, your IT. So if you've got a brain that likes to, code, you're fascinated with technology and how stuff works in the back end, then that's definitely something for you to do. We're always going to be using things like that. People are talking about AI. If you are interested in that, you want to look at a career that speaks more to the tech side of things. Then there's, of course, my space, which is finance. If you are very interested, if you love money or you love working with money, then finance is definitely going to be a thing, because you're going to work with that every single day. You're going to be working with finance, you're going to be working with clients, but finance is broad, right? There's a whole lot of things that you can do in finance as well. So you study finance, you study something like an accounting degree. If you're going to go accounting, then go the all the way. So go and become a CA, or get your CMA designation. Don't go halfway at it, rather go the full way. And then I'd say, yeah, then there's obviously law, which is also very great as well. So if you keep it around there and just try to figure out where do you think you'd fit. And it's an unfair question, it's an unfair expectation that's put on kids. I didn't know what I wanted to study after high school. You're like, I'm 17, I'm 18, nobody has a clue, right? What they do in other countries like America, they actually say, you're undergrad, you study anything, because you're still figuring yourself out. So what you find in America is a lot of people will start with one, in one career, then they'll switch to another one. So you get guys who are sitting in corporate finance that maybe started studying art, right? You can do that there. You can't do that here, because in South Africa, you almost have to have prior experience in the same, qualification. So you can't do a master's in finance without a bachelor degree in finance in South Africa. But elsewhere you can. So you need to consider those type of things as well. I would say try to expose yourself as much as possible. Google is your friend. See what's out there. Try to understand yourself really well before you make any decisions.
Okay. So you answered my next question, so I'm just going to skip that one. What was your most memorable memory in high school or tertiary?
So there's so many. I enjoyed just spending time with my friends. The most memorable that I would say is we'd often go out, sneak out of boys' dorm. I went to a boarding school. We'd often sneak out of boys' dorm and we'd go swimming, in the middle of the night with my friends, just swimming, just having fun, just doing stuff that's naughty but not that naughty. Like sneaking out of boys' dorm to swim is still, you're not supposed to be out, but we still had fun.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed that, and just spending time and just enjoying life without the responsibility of life, which is exactly where you are. Take the time to enjoy yourself, have fun, enjoy your life, but be responsible, but have fun. You don't have the weight of the responsibility of having to worry about what you're going to eat tomorrow or next week, because your mom and dad are here. So do what you need to do, which is study and focus on that when you get there, but have fun.
Okay, my last question for you is, what is one thing you would never advise me to do if I want to be successful?
That you would advise me to never do.
Yes, what is one thing you would advise me to never do if I wanted to be successful?
One thing,
Yeah.
lose focus. I would advise you to never lose focus, because
Okay.
I think to be successful, you need to have almost like an unshakable focus. And a lot of things can pull you in different directions where you end up losing focus. You know, it can be um, it can be excessive going out. I said earlier in the previous question that you must have fun with your life, but have fun, but remain focused. So when it's time to really, buckle down, knuckle down, and take time to study, then do that. If it's time to study, and not, instead of going out with friends and meeting this person, meeting that person, make sure that you keep focused. You can do anything as long as you keep focus in mind, right? You can have friends. I don't know what exactly how old you are. So for us, when I was growing up, my parents would say to me that, like, you can date, you must just be responsible. You mustn't do anything that you're going to regret. So with the girls thing, with boys, it's very topical. And I know for girls as well, girls always, the boys conversation is very topical, you know which for me and for my parents, they were fine with, as long as you need to keep focus on the main thing. Is the main thing, stay focused.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Uncle Karabo. Those are all the questions I had for you.
Thank you so much, it's a pleasure. Uncle also, hey.
Yeah,
T.
we are old, Karabo.
Oh my goodness.
We are old people. Thank you very much, Shanzo, for your questions.
Thank you so
And
much for your questions, they were lovely.
I learned quite a bit. I mean, I had an idea of the kind of person that you are with regards to all those, but it's lovely to hear you saying those things. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So yes, now it's me and you,
I'm
and
ready.
I want you to share the story of your life in terms of your career, how you started and the journey that you took to get to where you are. And I want you to start right there from the beginning, when why you studied what you studied, and how everything just unraveled.
Okay, sure. It's quite an interesting story.
Yeah.
So I was sharing with your daughter earlier, I personally didn't know what I wanted to study. So I
Mhm.
finished matric, and I had no idea what I wanted to study. My dad is a quantity surveyor, and he said to me, "Why don't you try architecture?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"What does an architect even do?" And I remember, uh, literally, now we are driving, and he stopped the car on the side of the road, and he opened up the prospectus, and he read to
Mhm.
me, "Oh, so architecture is the science and art of buildings, and what, like, so this is what they do." And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that sounds interesting. And being someone who is driven by many things, one of them being money, I asked him, what's the likelihood that I can make a good living doing this thing? And my dad says, yeah, no, so they make a good amount of money. At the
Mhm.
time, architects, they did all the fancy buildings, and they did all the, fancy houses, which they still do, but it was really something that, a lot of people aspired to do. So I thought, okay, let me actually try it out.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I was actually late to apply, right? So
Mm.
I actually, my name wasn't even on the list of people that were being interviewed.
Considered, yeah.
So and I got to the varsity during the day of interviews, and I realized, listen, my name wasn't there. So then I literally, asked the lady who was at the front desk. I literally begged her. I said, listen, I've come all this way. I know I'm not. Please just give me an opportunity to interview. I don't know how she said yes, but she said
Yeah.
yes. And then I met the lady who was basically saying it's a yay or nay for you to get into the program. And
Mhm.
I met with her and I interviewed with her, and she looked at me. She says, I like you. I'm gonna give you a chance. And so she gave me a chance, and I joined architecture.
You charmed
But
your way into
I think
into.
I charmed my way into it. And while I was there, I realized I hated it. I
Oh.
I didn't like it at all. And I was doing my second year, and I went to my parents. I'm like, guys, this thing is not for me, eh?
Mhm.
And they said to me, listen, you have to finish what you start. You can't stop now, because what you're gonna put on your CV? You've got
Mhm.
1 year of architecture. You have to finish what you start.
Exactly.
So
Focus.
focus.
Mm.
So I said, okay, cool. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm gonna focus. At the time, everybody wants to get into the design stream of architecture. So you've got two options. You can either become going to architectural management, or you can go into design. If you go into design, you get to design all the big fancy buildings that you
Oh,
see all around us. So everybody wants to get into that. You get to
yeah.
make all the money and all of that. So I tried my best to get into that, because if I'm going to do something, I want to at least to try and do it well. So that's exactly what I did.
Mhm.
I don't know if you can hear that in the background. But anyway, so it's my little
Is that your
one.
daughter?
Yes, but I've locked her out, so I think we're okay.
Okay.
So I then did my best to get into design. It's now my third year. So second year I passed really well. I got 75% for design,
Hmm.
which to get into design at the time they wanted you to get 70%.
Okay.
So now this is the third year. This is make or break, so that you can do your fourth year in design. If
Mhm.
not, you have to do management. So I did I got my modules in. I worked really hard. Then I presented my design. I didn't get 75%. I got 64%. I
Oh
got
no.
60, which would have meant that I passed, but they couldn't accept me into design. It would mean
Okay.
if I wanted to get into design, I'd have to repeat design again for a full year. And I
Yeah.
passed, right? So I
Yeah.
went back to my principal, like, guys, I've passed, but I can't get into design. There's this other thing to go into management. And I'm thinking it might not be the worst thing, because I don't really like architecture anyways.
Yeah.
And they agreed. They said, listen, you've passed. You don't have to now waste your time and do another year
Yes.
of something that you've already passed.
Of course.
So then I went the architectural management. So my fourth year was architectural management. It means you can still design stuff, but there's a limit to what you can
Of
design.
course.
You can't design the really big and sexy buildings and all of that. So I did that and I finished. And then I really struggled to look for a job when I finished, because I knew I didn't want to work in architecture. Um,
So you think you struggled because your heart wasn't in there.
I don't. I think maybe a little bit of that, but also the market and the qualification. Architecture is so specialized, right?
Mhm.
With that qualification, you can only work at an architectural firm, or you can work at maybe one of these government agencies that would, require those type of services.
Okay.
So, and I applied. I think that year I must have sent out 500 applications. After I
Yo.
finished that 500 applications, and one after the other, we regret to inform you, the
Mm.
application declined. We regret to inform you. We regret to inform. Like all of them.
Maybe it's because they never got to meet you. If they had, you probably
I
would
mean, I
have your way
mean,
in there.
I mean, listen, T, that's what I tell myself as well, But yeah, I remember back at that time, it was hard,
Mhm.
getting all those rejections. Um, and what's interesting, I used to pass a building. It was a bank that I used to pass, and this bank had a screen, and on the screen, it was basically showing you, what's the price of ZAR, what's the price of the US dollar, what's the price of Great British Pound, and
Yeah.
gold and all of that. So they would show that on the screen. And I drive past this office. It was close to where my mom and dad used to live. So I'd always wondered as I drove past, what kind of people work in there? What type of person do you have to be in order to work in a place like this?
Yeah.
But I'd always drive past it and just wonder. Then I got an opportunity to work for an engineering company.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't gonna do architecture, but part of my role was going to be to do some project management and to do some sort of quality assessing, right? Because I studied architecture, so it was almost right up my alley. I knew what to look for,
Yes.
and so in addition to project management, I was also going to do some calculations for them, as a cost manager. So these guys employed me as a cost manager. It was in Cape Town.
Okay.
And before I left, my mom and dad, they set me down, look, we wish you all the best. And my dad gave me this speech. He said, when I left home when I was 18,
Yeah.
and never turned back. Life was hard. I never came back home. I never
Yeah.
asked, anybody for anything. I
Yes.
went there as a man and I made it out on my own. So when I left, it was ringing in my head. And interestingly enough, my mom was there and she, started to tear up. She said, no, but what he means is you can always come back home. Then I looked at my dad. My dad was like, that's not what I mean. So then I left, packed all my stuff in. I used to drive an Audi A3 back then, so I packed all my stuff in there, and then I drove to Cape Town.
Yeah.
With everything that I owned was now in that car, which was really just a clothes on my back because I was still living at home. I got to Cape Town, started working.
Yeah.
Then I think at around 26, I think when I was 26 or 27, the holding company that I worked for, which was, it was a public listed, entity, but they
Yeah.
got into some trouble and they got liquidated.
Oh,
And
shame.
as a result, the subsidiary that I was working for in Cape Town got affected. So at 26, I got a retrenchment letter to say, look, we can actually no longer afford to keep you. This is your retrenchment letter. But then my boss, after giving me the letter, he says to me, so this is formally, you are retrenched.
Yes.
Informally, we've got a project in the Eastern Cape that we've just gotten. But because it's a new project and it's the only project that we have,
Mhm.
I also can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to pay you every single month.
Sure.
He was upfront and I appreciated him for that. But I didn't have anything else at the time.
So
So I
yeah.
said to him,
Then
I'll do it. Yeah, I said I'll do it. So then again, I was renting in Cape Town. So then I moved to Port St. John's, where I was with the company was basically building houses, and we built some roads and things like that. And then I got quite a lot of experience as the site manager's right hand man, if you will. So and I did that for about, I think, close to a year or so, until they couldn't pay us. They stopped paying. They started
sure.
paying late. Then so then when they started paying late, I said to my parents, I said, listen, I'm gonna leave because these guys are now, they're starting to mess with the bag, right?
Yes.
So then I handed in my resignation. I said, thank you for everything, but I'm going to leave. And I started a business with one of the guys that I had met at this company. He was one of our suppliers, right?
Right.
And part of my job was to calculate how much we need to pay him based on the work that he did for us.
Okay.
And I mean, I saw, we were paying this guy quite nicely. So so I
But there's
approached him.
a market there.
Yes, there's a market there. And all he did was he used to cut away rubble for the business, right? Building rubble. That's all that
Yeah.
he did. So I said
Yeah.
to him, before I started having chats with him to say, "Hey, I'd love to join you. Let's be business partners." And fortunately, we got along. And he was 55 and I was 26. And we went to open
Perfect.
a company. Perfect,
Yes.
you're right. And we did well. We did well for some time. And, things were going great. And I was convinced, I was telling.
Moved from being an architect to picking up rubble.
Yes, now I was picking up rubble, building rubble. That's what I was doing. I did that every day, and
Mhm.
we were doing well. I was even, telling my parents that, guys, just watch the space. I'm going to be successful here.
Yeah.
I'm going to make lots of money. It's going to be great.
This is big.
This is big.
Yeah.
Then it just so happened, we got one of the jobs that we did. The client that we did work for,
Mhm.
he took us for everything that we had. We did work for him and he didn't pay us.
Oh no.
So we actually we owed him a lot of money.
Household.
So because so we did he owed yeah, so what happened was there was not the client, but the guy that we had rented. So we were renting trucks. We rented
Mhm.
trucks from a service provider. He was the client.
Yes.
So as the client, he hired us to remove the rubble, which we did for 2 weeks. We spent a lot of our own money to move that.
Of course.
And then, but now the service provider, who's the owner of the truck, he's the one that we owed money to,
Mhm.
right? So when we realized that this guy's not going to pay us and we couldn't get hold of him,
Mm.
he disappeared from the face of the earth, basically.
Sure. After
So
you've done the work.
after we've done a lot of the work, not
Mm.
all of it, but we did like a good part of the work. I think we were going to be busy there for, I would say, 8 months. And
Oh.
we were going to be busy for 8 months. And we worked for 2 weeks nonstop every day, right? And we did a lot of work.
Mhm.
So it was time for him to pay after 2 weeks. He didn't. So the supplier said, guys, I mean, you guys owe me money.
Yes.
And at that point, we had a meeting with him and we said, listen, this is the money that's in our bank account. We know that we are still short of what we owe you, um, but you can take it all and
Yeah.
and we can call it square, right?
Mm.
So then he agreed. He took everything. We did a transfer there in his office. We sent him everything, and our business then was done,
Was dead.
was dead. So now I'm
Yo.
back. I'm back to square one.
Where? Yo.
I had now I think about 6 months of savings at the time,
Mhm.
which I then, stayed in Cape Town, tried to, now I'm back to applying, trying to look for work. Nothing came. I got a few more, regret to inform you.
Mm.
And then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my dad's words are ringing in my,
Yes. Coming back.
coming back. I never came back. I never. So yeah,
So
it
you
was wild.
couldn't be the prodigal son. You
I,
couldn't.
you know what I mean? So then I called him. I called him and I'd said to him, Dad, look, man, this is what's happening. He was the first person to say, come home,
Oh,
come home.
yeah.
So I packed all my stuff again, which was now another somber moment at the time because
Mhm.
I had left home a few years earlier, thinking I'm going to create this life for myself.
Of course.
Now I'm coming back. I've sold a lot of the stuff that
Mm.
I had bought, that I'd accumulated.
Yes.
And now everything that I owed was now back in this A3, and I was driving back home.
Mm.
Um, so when I got home, now I was back to, asking my mom, please, just can you borrow me 100 rands? I just want to go here. I just want to, so that was hard as well. And I continued to look for work. Then my dad says to me, Karabo, why don't you try insurance? I
Mhm.
said, insurance? Like, you mean these annoying people that call people on the phone and ask them for live covers and ask them to buy live covers and invest and stuff?
Surely
He
not.
said, yeah, like surely not. I mean, now I'm a little, feeling a little arrogant. Now I studied architecture. I'm not gonna do that. My dad said, hey, I wanted to call Ntatem Patu, who's one of the guys that we go to church with. I mean,
Yes.
he's been doing it for a very long time. He's doing very well. So have a chat with him.
Hmm.
So I called him and I listened to what he had to say. And he said, look, I think you'll be great. I'm gonna arrange a meeting with our manager. The next day, the manager called me, and I still remember I was at the gym at like 11 a.m. I'm unemployed. I've got nothing better to do
Oh,
with my life. So
chilling.
I'm chilling. So then he calls and says, "Hey, I got your numbers from AB. Uh, I'd love to come in. I'd love for you to come in and meet me."
Yeah.
So I met him the next week,
Mm-hmm.
and it was crazy, T, because when I met him, he took out a blank A4 page.
Yeah.
His name is Walter May. Took a blank A4 page and he gave it to me and he said, write the 10 things that you want.
Okay.
Write it on a paper, on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so you must remember at that time of my life, right?
Yeah.
I've my business has gone bust.
Of
I've
course.
gotten more declines, more rejections. So this glimmer of hope is
Mm.
really fading in the distance.
Yes.
So things that I wanted to achieve, personal things that I wanted to achieve for myself, at that point I'm thinking,
They're not a
maybe not.
yeah.
They're not a possibility. Maybe I
Yeah.
must just resign myself to a life of mediocrity, if that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he hands me this paper. It's a blank piece of paper. And he hands it to me. He says, write what you want.
Yeah. 10 things.
10 things. So now I get to thinking. And I'm like, but what do you mean? He says, yeah, like, where do you want to stay?
All right.
So I write it down. What car do you want to drive?
Mm-hmm.
I write it down. What else do you want to do? So I'd love to take my parents away for a nice holiday. Where?
Mm-hmm.
I tell him, just write it down.
Okay.
We went through everything
Yeah.
till number 10. And then he says to me, you can achieve all of this if you can sell. And
Okay.
I didn't know if I could sell at that
Mm-hmm.
point. But I'm so grateful for that opportunity because I actually found out I could sell
Mm-hmm.
when I started. Right. I found out I was not only could I sell, but I was good at it. And it was full commission, right? So
Yeah.
from there, I was able to, pay lobola out of this, start a life with my wife. Like, so I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity. And then
10 things that he
pardon me?
made. I'm saying for the 10 things he made you write down.
For 10 things, because then I started to believe
Yes.
again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did that for 3 years, but I always wanted to be a banker, to be in the action, in the thick of things.
Yeah.
Then I got
So
on.
what were you doing at this job? What were what?
I was a financial planner, so I was selling insurance. So I was
Okay.
selling your life insurance, your retirement annuities, your investments, your tax-free savings. That's what I
So
did.
one of the people actually calling people.
I was one of the people calling people, say, I got your number here. I'd love to come and meet you. Please just give me 20 minutes of your time. Right? I did that for 3 years.
Wow.
And I made a living off that.
A
Um,
comfortable one too.
yeah, a good one.
Hmm.
I made a very good living of that. Um, and then, look, to be honest, it did come with its challenges, but
Course.
I'm really grateful for that opportunity. Then I got an opportunity to interview at this bank.
Yeah.
And
How did that come about?
so what's interesting is um, my wife actually says to me, have you ever thought about working for a bank or being in banking? I'm like, nah, I don't have the qualifications. I haven't really thought about it. Um, yeah, and she says, look, why don't you try? I mean, there's a lot of people like you at the bank. You you overachieving types that talk too much.
Yeah.
So I I then thought, okay, so I went online and I applied and I was called for an interview, and um, fortunately I was successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a banker. And what's interesting is when I looked at what they were looking for, they were looking for someone with a finance degree, which I didn't have at the time. I only studied finance later.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for someone with experience working with clients and managing relationships, which I had now after my 3 years.
Yes.
And then they wanted someone with a strong sales track record, which I had.
Yes.
Yes, so I had two out of three.
Yeah.
So I applied, and fortunately, they they the interview went well and they liked me, and I was able to work for them, and I'm actually still at the company. And I became a leader in that same business years later.
Mm.
So I've just learned so many things from that journey. I think one is that is that sometimes, in fact all the time, never despise what you think is a small beginning,
Mm-hmm.
because your next is gonna come from there. So you can imagine if I was so arrogant to think, "No, I'm not gonna sell insurance and I'm not going to do that." That's and that's it's an honorable profession, you know.
Terrible
It's an
profession.
honorable profession, but people look down on it and one of these guys are, I was I was that guy for a long time. So I've got a very soft, spot for people who have to do that on a
Tell
daily.
my yes.
Absolutely. So I'm very, I'm very grateful that I didn't think that I was too big. I don't know what's going on with my screen, by the way.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot happening there.
Yeah, I'm grateful that I didn't think I was too big for
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities that were coming to me, right? Because those are the ones that I did, and I did to the best of my ability. So that's the one thing that I learned. And then the other one that I learned is my story is a story of grace,
Okay.
and God's grace. I never knew that I could sell.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the guidance of my father, if I didn't listen to the guidance of my father, and continue to take on the 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 advice that I would get from Ntate Mpato, who became a mentor for me in that business, I wouldn't have done well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. And another thing that I've learned is that purpose is the most powerful thing, that you make decisions based on your purpose. And how you'll find that out, it's normally in the things that you're good at.
Okay.
That normally informs what your purpose is. And it took me a while to actually figure that out, because I knew I was good at people, but I didn't know, what jobs can you do where you're actually good at people that align with my aspirations, what I want to achieve in life.
Mm-hmm.
um, but today I know my purpose is, how can I help people get better?
Okay.
I'm good with people, and that I know I'm good at I'm good at selling, but how my purpose is making people get better. So making people be better at sales. So I run a sales team where my job is, how do I, number one, make sure that these people perform at a very high level.
Okay.
And number two, if they are not, how do I help them get better?
Okay.
So and that's part of what I do. And my purpose, since understanding that has has changed my life, because
When,
everything, pardon
oh,
me,
sorry. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, when did you figure out your purpose?
I figured that out, I would say, as I was interviewing for my current role as a leader.
Yeah.
Because as a banker, you know, my boss at the time, and our head of banking, they'd always come to me and say, have you considered leadership? Have you thought about leadership? And at that time I was looking elsewhere, right? I
Mm.
was looking at, no man, I want to be an investment banker. I want to, I want to, I want to do this rather. I want to do that.
Mhm.
So I was focused more on that. And as a and I believe I can do those things. I mean, I went to go study a master's in finance because I thought, like, I need to align myself to this
Yes.
and prepare for this. Whereas my secret sauce is in the people.
Yeah.
That's what I do better than 85% of the population.
Mm.
So once that clicked, I said, this a role where I get to lead people, make people better,
Mm-hmm.
help them to perform. So in other words, make good performers great performers, and keep the great performers there, and then the ones who are not performing, also help them up as well, and do that in a way that's going to shine a light on my own values and my own beliefs.
Okay.
that's my that's what I'm here for. I know that's what God has put me on this earth
For
to
that.
for that, to make people better and to shine a light to what my own values and convictions are.
So, I love what you're saying, because it's such a soft skill, it's something that someone can easily look over. I just want to know, on your typical day, what does your day look like? What do you do when you wake up and you go to work? What do you actually do?
What they actually do. So a variety of things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different on a daily basis. It depends. So some of my work would include helping members in my team with deals. So sometimes, guys would be working on a specific deal, and maybe they need assistance with structuring this deal. So then I'll sit with them and we'll help to structure this deal. So if there's a fair amount of complexity, we can sit and we can look at financials, we can look at the balance sheet, we can look at the income statement of a business, of an individual, and then what happens is, then I would then guide them to say, this is how you should structure it. Maybe ask the client for this, ask the client for that. This is what we need to look out for. It could possibly work this way as well. So that's part of what I do. And then sometimes I'd go with them to credit, where we approve these deals, where we'd sit and we present to a credit forum, which
Okay.
would typically happen on that's typically for, I think, for about 4 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So
Oh.
that's Mondays and Wednesdays rather. So then
Mhm.
I'd do that. But then another part of my role is to put together strategies for acquiring clients, which is a big part of what we do. We want to ensure that we can acquire clients so we can continue to grow our client base. There's that. But then also there's, where it comes to the softer stuff, there's
Mhm.
also things where I would give direction on how certain things are implemented. So if it's a specific strategy that we have thought about, that we're looking at doing, then it's about saying, how can we best execute on the strategy? So, and that's in different ways. So that's how we then introduce it to the bankers, to make it palatable, to get buy-in from the bankers, but then
Mhm.
also how we can take that to market, right? So that's also part of what I do. And then the challenging stuff is, sometimes there's people complexity, right? So I will have individuals who come, who sometimes they'll share a negative experience that they're having with a certain division or another department in the bank or somebody else. So then there's talking about that and they should navigate how best they should navigate that the
Mhm.
situation. So there's that as well. There's the reporting aspects. There's the presentation on how we intend to drive strategies, but then there's also a presentation on how the business has done. So I've got a team of 14 people, and that's a business, and I then need to present to my head on how that business is doing, how each person is performing, and if they're not, what do we need to look out for? And it's quite detailed, right? We've got various KPIs that we need to look at. Where I
Mhm.
feel where they need support, I need to lean in and say, look, have you considered this? Have you considered that? But it's all, in my view, you get the best results if you are able to really do it in a way that will build somebody up.
Okay.
Again, shining a light to my own values. If I think of a master builder for us, that's God, that's Jesus, right? He's the cornerstone, the foundation. He's the master builder. So if
Mhm.
I think of how he works with us, he's patient, and he's long suffering. He wants to guide, he wants to shape, he wants to mold, but then also at the same time he's also very firm. So
Mhm.
his yes is a yes, his no is a no, um, and he also expresses his expectations very explicitly.
Mhm.
So that's what I try to incorporate as well in my daily life. To have that equal measure of kindness and grace, but also to clearly articulate what my expectations are, and what I believe is unacceptable. So those are the two things that
You
that
have to try and balance, I
that I have
guess.
to try and balance all the time. And then we build businesses as well. So I did mention we've got offices elsewhere, and as a leadership team, in our region, we do it together.
Mhm.
So we build businesses, we build people, because the people are the ones that give you the results.
Of
So
course.
you don't build the results, you build the people. And then if you build the people well, they will get you the results.
Of course. Sure. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to hear you talking about how your values interact with your role at work and how the two cannot be separated. Um, what would you say to a high schooler who's possibly thinking of going into the space that you are in, and they how would you say they should um, channel themselves in terms of their education, of course, and bringing in the person that they are into the role that they would be into.
So I think, firstly, you have to have a passion for people.
Okay.
You have to love people. Um, you have to be able to get great rapport, build rapport with people, with relationships. You need to be able to have an understanding of what it takes to maintain relationships. So for me, that would be the first prize. So if you're getting other people saying, "Oh, you're so great with people," and it's not about being an introvert or an extrovert, right?
Mm.
Because in my business, you have people who are introverted who do very well, and you've got people who are extroverted who do very well as well. So it's not about how introverted or extroverted you are. You can still be very good with people even though you're an introvert. So that's just a myth that I just want us to dispel. So are you good with people, and do you like people? Well, I think that's an important one, because I work with people every day. If it's not the bankers in my team, then it's the clients who sometimes come with difficult things for you to solve, right? So you need to enjoy interacting with people, even if you don't enjoy dealing with the difficult stuff, which nobody really does.
Yeah.
But then at least there's some value that you are getting from it, even on a bad day. So I'd say that's important. And then in terms of something to study,
Mm.
I would say, if you study finance,
Mhm.
you study finance, you study accounting, that'll definitely help you. Um, it definitely makes things easier. But if I tell you, it's not what bankers do is not limited to that. I mean, we have bankers who do very well who don't have those qualifications, right? There's either a strong track record in sales, in finance, so they've got a good grasp of numbers, and because they've got a good grasp of numbers, even though they don't have the qualification, they can sell, and we quite comfortable that okay, you can sell, you're going to be good with clients, you've got a reputable track record from a reputable entity or company or the like. Then we can say okay, cool, this is something that you can look at doing. But then finance is so broad, you know it's so broad. I'll
Is
say
it?
yes. It's so what in finance do you want to do? Do you want to be a so that's what I'd ask first, right? Do you want to be a wealth manager, right? Which is different to what I do. A
Mhm.
wealth manager focuses on particularly where the firm that I work for,
Mm.
very wealthy individuals. We are all we're doing is we're managing your money.
Mm.
You give us your money, we take your money, we invest it
And
within
grow.
different yes, we invested within different asset classes that
Mhm.
all depends on what your risk profile is, right? What's your risk profile? Are you a high risk, high return? Are you more low risk, low return? Are you medium? Where do you sit? What's your appetite for risk? So they ask all these questions. So you can either be a wealth manager where you take care of the money of wealthy clients, and you then manage these funds for them. So you take a portion, you invest in this company, or you invest in this asset class, or let's say you invest in shares, or you're going to invest in property, you can invest in bonds. So they do all of that for wealthy clients.
Mhm.
That's a role. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you get bankers. Bankers help clients with their day-to-day transactional stuff.
Mhm.
Then they finance specific deals for clients, whether that's in the private banking space, it would be your home loan, it will be your cars, it could be medical equipment if you are a medical specialist starting a practice.
Mhm.
In the corporate and institutional banking space, it could be call it a working capital facility to help your business with from a cash flow perspective.
Mhm.
In a call it a leverage finance type of space, it could be raising up funds to buy into another business, right? Or to use those funds for a specific event. And
Okay.
all these things are different. You could maybe work in the trading desk as well, and these are the guys who do different kind of trades. Forex is the most common one, but there's
Yeah.
interest trading, so it's so broad, right?
Mhm.
So get an understanding of what it is that you want to do. Investment banking is another one as well that's out there
Mhm.
that focuses on so call it entities or firms that want to raise funds either to purchase another big firm. And these are normally these big corporates or listed entities.
Yes.
So they do those type of things. So it's so broad. And what's great about Google and the information age that we live in is that this
Yeah.
information is at your fingertips. So you can
Available.
you go on Google and say, what jobs are there to do in finance? And then there's guys that actually do the finance, like accountants, they do the financials, the finance department, they do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so broad. So I would say really just try to understand, if you want to get into finance, what are your interests?
Yeah.
Oh, those interests hopefully should be led by what you're good at. What comes,
That.
what you're good at. Start. I'm such a believer in that. Start there. If you're good with
Yeah.
if you're good with numbers, if you're good at numbers, then definitely you can do something that's more inclined with that. You know,
Yeah.
if you've got enough some type of affinity to numbers, which
Mm-hmm.
I do, and I'm good at people. There's things there that you can find that's going to sort of mirror what it is
Ah.
that you are, right? So for
Yeah.
me, I'm not I'm technical. I've become technical over time. So from looking at balance sheets and financials, I can do that, and structuring deals, I can do that. I've learned that over time.
Yeah.
But what comes easiest to me is people and relationships. So I'm always going to make sure that I lean more towards
What? Okay.
that as I move. But this other component is a very important component on my day to day. It
Yes. The people skills.
the people skills, but the technical aspect as well, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need to explain the technical stuff, right?
Of course.
And if you are naturally good with people, sometimes it helps if you can explain it to them in a way that they can understand. Or sometimes you just need to be able to explain it in a way that's palatable to whoever's listening to
Listening.
you.
Of
So
course.
they could also be, just as smart as you are, if not smarter. But
Mm-hmm.
because of how it's coming across, you might not get the required response.
Response that you want. Yeah. I have a question here from our YouTube community. They say 18-year-old me thought banks are for people to go and deposit and borrow money to buy houses and cars. What do you mean when you say you source clients? What type of clients and what exactly are you selling to these clients?
True. So that's a very good question. So you are right. The purpose of the bank is to receive deposits,
Mm-hmm.
and then from those deposits, they then lend out money. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's that's the purpose of a bank at a very basic level. Okay. But when I say that we go and source clients,
Mm-hmm.
pardon me. So the clients that we source are clients that are going to be depositing, you know, funds,
Yes.
money
Yeah.
into one of our accounts
Mm-hmm.
so that we can then lend out more, right? So uh, it's going to be sort of I'm going to try and make it as detailed as possible. So what happens is uh, clients will deposit money to the bank. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the bank would then take money and then would then lend it out to somebody else. When they lend
Yes.
it out to somebody else, they normally lend it at a specific interest rate. They say, "Okay, I'll give you this money, provided you can give me from this 1 rand, you're gonna give me 15 cents."
Yeah.
So, so you're gonna get 1 rand, but now when you pay it back, you have to pay 1 rand 15 cents.
Of course.
That's basically how the bank makes money. So when I say we go and acquire clients, we basically go acquire clients that would deposit money into our accounts. So because the more clients that we can bring into the bank that meet the bank's criteria, risk profile, and all of that, the more money that we can lend out, right? The more, sort of interest that we can charge, the more
Yes.
money that we can make as a business. But then as a banking business, banks make money in various ways, right? So there's um, this example that we just shared now.
Mm-hmm.
Client deposits money, bank then lends money to somebody else
Mm-hmm.
with interest. So that's one of the ways that banks make money. Another way that banks make money is by charging a fee. for the transaction. So the banks would say, okay, I'm going to give you for this 1 rand that you are asking, I'm charging you interest of 15 cents. But there's also there's a certain fee that we can charge for actually doing the work. So we're going to charge you, call it 5 cents. We're going to charge you 5 cents, just as an example, for doing this work, doing the paperwork for you. So they also charge, a fee. And then in some instances where you have a bank account, right? You have a bank account so that you can be able to make your own transfers and transact and all of that. And you pay a banking fee, so then the bank would also make money in that way. And then there's instances where, for example, whenever you swipe and when you go to the shops, you go to a Checkers or a Spar, you want to buy food, and you use your money to tap. Then the bank actually charges the shop interchange. We call it interchange. So that's also what they are being charged in order for using the bank's infrastructure
Yes.
to get funds. So I hope that answers the question.
I hope so too. I actually want to go to something that I think we spoke about this a while back.
Okay.
The importance of knowing people, connections, because you mentioned that you got some of the jobs that you got, it was through connections. I just want you to touch on that, if you may.
No, for sure. And I think that's a very important question, Candy, because I think the one thing that I need to accept, and that a lot of people need to accept, is that everybody's got some level of privilege, some
Yes.
level. It will vary from person to person, right? So for me, I was fortunate in that, first of all, both my parents work. Okay, so both my parents work. And I still have both my parents, right? So that's privilege. So when I had challenges in life, I could always go back to these two
Oh,
people that I trusted.
yeah.
I could always go home.
Yeah.
You know, my life may have probably been a lot more different if I couldn't go back home and regroup and try to figure. So I was privileged enough that I had that. Some people don't have that, right? Some people don't have that, and some people are still able to succeed in spite of that. Some people are not able to succeed because they don't have that.
Mm.
So that's the one thing. So the first thing is owning your privilege that you have, and say this,
Yes.
I have this privilege. I mean, I knew Ndatem Patu, whom we both know, and we go to church with him,
Yeah.
who became a mentor for the 3 years that I was, selling insurance, being that I was a financial advisor. He was a mentor, and he is certified financial planner as well, right? So he is cream de la creme of financial planners in
All
terms of
right.
his designation. It's the
Okay.
highest designation that you can have in financial planning,
Wow.
internationally recognized. So he's a certified financial planner, and he was what they called in our firm an executive financial advisor, which means
Mm.
he was selling at a level that very few people were selling at.
Mm. And
He
you had
was
access to that.
I had access to that. He was my mentor, and I didn't engineer that.
Mm.
He just happened to be in my circles. He just happened to be my orbit. So it's almost like no wonder I was doing well, right?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
because you
How
also
could
can't. Yes, you can't be arrogant with these things to say it was all me. I was good. No, yes, I had a certain level of talent, which I'll also admit and accept
of
that
course.
God has blessed me in specific areas. But at the same time, I had an incredible mentor
Mm.
who was very knowledgeable, the best of the best in what he did.
Mm.
And I could just knock on his office door anytime I wanted and say, This is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? How would
Yeah.
you approach this? How would you approach that?
Mm.
So that accelerated my learning so much
Mm.
because I had access to that. And nobody's self-made, so that's another myth that we need to dispel. When people are like, I'm a self-made millionaire, no, you're not. There's people that helped to get you to where you
To
are.
talk. Yeah.
100. And also we can also make the case of your gifts, your talents. You didn't give yourself those gifts and your talents. Otherwise, we would have all chosen to be 6 foot tall, play like Ronaldinho or Messi,
Yeah.
But we don't give ourselves those gifts. There's a baseline of talent that we have, and our job is to develop that and to nurture that,
Yeah.
right? But it's at different levels. Some people are just better at different things. So the challenge is you need to find what gives you the edge, what gives you the advantage. And then once you found what that is, you then need to work as if you don't have that advantage. You have to work as if you don't have that edge.
Mm.
That's the difference. You can't think now that I'm here, because that's where the longevity and sustainability comes in, right?
Mm.
And you can even take that through to sports. Uh,
Yeah.
there's individuals who aren't as talented as others, but because they showed up
Yes. The
every day,
concept.
they
Yes.
were consistent with their training, with what they ate, with
Mm.
their goals. They were able to have a lot more longevity than someone who just had the raw talent but didn't have that work ethic. So
Mm.
that I can't stress how important discipline is. So firstly, look at what gives you that edge,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you found what that is, what career is going to best suit that and what you're interested in and what you think you can do, that's going to inform that. Because once you understand that, you're going to be passionate about it, guys. There's no ways you're not going to be passionate about it if people are saying, oh, you're so good, I'm loving what you do, oh, I think you are great at this. You're going to become passionate. When people
Oh,
ask you to come and talk about, you're going to become passionate about it because you're good at it.
yes.
So it's not the other way around. We think, you're passionate at something first. No,
Context.
no, it works the other way around. Then the accolades come, and then the adulation comes, and the appreciation, and the list goes on and on.
Hmm. Wow. What then would you advise a a young person, maybe not even a young person, maybe anyone who's listening to you right now, um, with regards to finding those connections? So I know that um, our fairer brothers and sisters, they use their connections very well. How would you say, or rather, what would you say to us as Black people? How should we hone that and speak to me who's looking for the opportunity, and also speak to the person who possibly have that connection to offer?
Hmm. Allow me to answer your question by starting off with this phrase.
Yeah,
So when I first started at insurance, my manager at the time, I mentioned him earlier on, Walter,
yeah.
he says to me, don't be a wallflower. He was very, he's big, he's tall, he's gregarious, he's loud. He says, don't be a wallflower. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what he said. Don't be a wallflower. Get into a room, take up space, take charge. And that's what I would say to you, to someone like you, someone like me, is
Mm.
take up space. Don't be afraid to take up space. Where that's in, because sometimes what happens is the answers that you are looking for, the guidance that you're looking for, is actually in your circle,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if I had to ask you, um, how far do you think you are from how far do you think you are from Barack Obama having access to him? And
Yeah.
I'd say I'm very far.
Hmm.
I'm I'm so far,
Yeah.
you know,
Even by distance.
even by distance. And maybe that's not the right example because being a president of the United States, he'll be difficult to get hold of anyways.
Of course.
But what this line of question illustrates is actually they did a study on how far we all removed from each other, and you actually about 4 or 5 people removed from somebody else.
Okay.
And what happened was the gentleman who told me this, he asked me that question, how far do you think you are? uh,
Hmm.
and I said, I think I'm very far. He says, what if I told you 4 people removed? Like you've
Sure.
met me. So now then he tells me, you've met me,
Hmm.
right? My neighbor
Yeah.
does a lot of work with the US government,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
he knows, um, I think Barack Obama's chief of staff or something like that at the
Mm.
time,
Mm.
right? And he said, you see, like you 4 people removed. What he was basically explaining is you never know what can come out of the people that you meet.
Mm.
You never know what fruits can come out of the relations from the people that you meet, right? So it's so important to treat everybody with respect and with
Mm.
kindness, um, and to just make a good impression, which is really not that difficult, right? The decency, be on time, um, listen intently to when somebody speaks,
Mm.
and just be kind to whoever you interact with because you never know who they know
Yeah.
and how that might be of benefit to you. So I would start off by saying, take up space, be confident, know that you've got something to offer.
Hmm.
you Everybody's got something to offer, but you need to first work from the premise of, I need to take up space. Me breathing here is not a it's not a favor. Nobody's has given you this favor to breathe, right? You breathing, you don't have to apologize for it. God has given you breath.
Yeah.
So take up space like you belong. You belong to be here. You belong in this ecosystem of life, of breathing, of interaction. One of the most powerful quotes that I ever heard was from a very interesting man called Tulankosi, whom you know as well.
Yeah.
And um, he shared this with me. When we as people, particularly African people, when you ask someone, how are you doing, the answer isn't I'm fine.
Hmm.
The answer is always I'm here. Eating
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
Setswana, you
I
call,
remember saying
I'm
that.
here, right?
Yes.
And that seems to be enough, right? But that's so powerful because in that, what you're saying is, hey, don't count me out. I'm here. Count me in.
Yes.
Count me in the land of the living with activity as people are looking for opportunities, looking for careers, trying to grow their brand, trying to be better. Count me in all of that.
Mm.
Even if you're going through challenges right now, you don't know what your next is. You don't know what your career looks like. You don't know what the next steps are. You count me in. I'm
I
I'm I'm here.
Yeah.
And it's more important to be here with all those negative things than to not.
Mm.
And for me, that's incredibly powerful. It's one of the things that I use in life on a daily basis. Because sometimes life is just hard, right? Things are
True.
difficult. We go through challenges, but I am here. And as
I
long as I'm here, you know, God is saying, listen, you still have something to offer this place. Because
mm,
you're not just here just because you take up space. You've got something to offer. You're here for a purpose. I've put here for a purpose. If you're still breathing, you haven't yet realized that purpose. So go
mm.
out there and find it. But God has given us clues. He's given us gifts. He's given us talents as a guide.
Mm.
It's a little nugget. Okay, go explore this. Go explore that.
Yeah.
I think of a Lionel Messi from a young age who kicked the ball like nobody's ever seen a ball being kicked.
Mm.
That was his God-given talent. His parents had the foresight to say, okay, this one we're putting him in a soccer academy from a very young age. They put him there.
Yeah.
Now look, explore that. They didn't say, okay, this boy kicks a soccer ball like nobody else. Let's go put him in finance. you know, like, you know, explore and that's some of the beauty. That's one of the things that make life beautiful is that you've got an opportunity to explore and take your life out for a spin. See how
I
it
think
feels.
that's a really beautiful lesson, I think, for parents, to actually to be reminded that, we need to watch our children and to actually help them towards who they are supposed to be. I absolutely love that. Talking of connections, so I always ask people who come through if they are up to mentoring, if they are up to sharing opportunities, if there are opportunities out there. So that question also stands. Are you in that space to help someone out there who might need help?
One
If
100%.
beautiful.
100. It's my purpose. This is what I'm here for. That is my gig. My gig here is to do that. You know, um, and that said, I mean, I also have people who help me. I also have people who mentor me.
Yes.
So it's not nobody is a wellspring of a well that just never runs dry, right?
Mhm.
As I give a lot of myself to others, I also rely on the other people to also give some of themselves to me. As I pour into the cups of others, I also rely on others to also pour into me. That's For me, that's how it works. That's what makes life um that
Worth
makes life beautiful. I want to steering mo lefatsheng. That's a we all need
each
that. And I'm happy to do that, to mentor, to help share some of my experiences, to help guide some individuals. My experiences may be able to help them in their journey. I'm more than happy.
Oh, thanks, Menskaps. That's beautiful. I love that. And for me, honestly, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is primarily that to
Mm.
get people connected to, because I believe that opportunities are there. I mean, in the past month and a half, 2 months that I've been doing this, the number of connections that we've been able to establish has been phenomenal. And I know we're just scratching the surface. And I look forward to seeing more people saying, hey, I'm now, at a better place because that connection actually materialized. So I appreciate that very much. And I know you mean what you're saying. Um, Quick question. If you were not doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I
Mm.
would be a worship leader. I think I'd be a worship leader, That's what I do for a like living.
Living.
That's what I do for a living. I'd be a worship leader, just arranging my songs for for worship. You know, getting everything perfect so that everybody can have a good experience
Mhm,
when they come to church. So I'll do that. If I wasn't doing what I'm doing now,
mhm.
um, probably a public speaker. If I wasn't, in banking and finance, I'd probably be speaking,
Motivational speaker
motivate,
somewhere.
yeah, motivational speaker again with a view of aligning to purpose, right? Uh, how do I share my experiences that can resonate with people, that makes people better, where people can find some, commonality. Uh, if I can help them in some way, unlock something. So I think that's probably what I do. I think yeah. So between those two, I think if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, I'd probably be doing that. I think that's my retirement plan actually. Once I'm done.
Well, um, I know you are, I mean, you're a great singer, so I'm sure people are in for a treat if that's what you end up deciding to do. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Scabs,
Thank
for
you.
through. I have enjoyed this conversation. There were times I wanted to say amen.
I
Um,
heard I actually saw your lips moving. I was like, wait, we're not in church.
um, yeah, this was beautiful in that it didn't just speak about the career itself, but it's actually tools that I think if kids were to take, and they're very, I mean, they're very simple. Focus, um, know what you're good at, you know, and then the passion will come once you figured that. Live in your purpose, you
Yeah.
know. Um, don't despise small beginnings. Connections matter. I truly, truly appreciate the person that you are, and for lending me your time. I know your little girl is probably like wondering, where is this guy now?
Yeah. Oh, I'm in for it when I leave here.
Yeah, no. So I want to thank you for your time. I enjoyed the talk, as I said, and hopefully I will be sending some people your way to knock on your door.
All right.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing them grow from whatever it is that you will share with them.
No, I'm happy, T. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and for the time as well. I mean, I also just really appreciate it as well, and I think you are doing, what you're doing here is amazing. You're doing amazing things as well.
Thank you.
And yeah, man, I think may God bless you abundantly for all these amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you very much, my friend. Let that be a good night. Thank you to our YouTube viewers, and we shall see you again next week.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Cheers. Mm, all right. The, okay. The streaming has stopped.
All right.
Thank you very much.